Jeremiah Smith just promised what every Ohio State fan wants to hear. He's done losing to Michigan.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Hump Day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes, and today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. During today's show, we will discuss how Jeremiah Smith can build upon the success he had last season, as well as the importance of new school players having an old school energy. But first, September 27th, the year 2008, was a big day for Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow and the Florida Gators just lost to Ole Miss. And after that loss, Tim Tebow went behind the podium in the post-game presser and made a big promise, numerous big promises that got everybody's eyes big. He simply said, I promise you a lot of good will come out of this. But he also went further and stated that you will never see any player in the entire country play as hard as I will play the rest of the season. You will never see someone push the rest of the team as hard as I will push everybody the rest of the season. He did not promise that Florida would go undefeated the rest of the way, but that's what happened. They ended up winning the rest of their games, winning the SEC championship game, and winning the national championship. But it was all fueled by some promises that Tim Tebow made after a loss. And after Ohio State lost to Michigan last year, I guarantee you Jeremiah Smith was sick to his stomach. I'm not saying he was throwing up and things, but just simply thinking about that game, the outcome, the loss, the way they lost, knowing that on paper, going into the game, Ohio State should have beat the brakes off Michigan because Michigan wasn't that good last year. But on that day, that Saturday afternoon, Michigan was the better team. I have no problem saying that. It's true. They were the better team. And Jeremiah Smith, after that loss, and while he was at OT7 playoffs being interviewed by The Athletic, he said, out of his mouth, not mine, Jeremiah Smith said that he will not lose to Michigan over the next 2 years. And by him making that big promise, it's similar to what Tim Tebow did back in 2008, but it's different. Because Tim Tebow didn't say, we're not going to lose. He said, I'm just going to work harder than everybody else. And we're going to push ourselves and work harder than everybody else. Well, Jeremiah Smith, he's coming out and saying, we aren't losing. And you need your leader to have this kind of mindset that you're not going to lose. I'll read the quote to you in a second, the exact word-for-word quote that Jeremiah Smith laid out in the interview with The Athletic. But this is what you need. Because losing to that team 4 years in a row is unacceptable. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Last year, Ohio State was better. I think Ohio State had more talent a few of those years. Overall team chemistry, that would be debatable about what Ohio State be better than Michigan in some of those years. I mean, 2023, Michigan won the Natty. You can't deny that. I don't think in some of those years, Ohio State was the better team chemistry-wise on both sides of the ball. Here's the issue, though. Here is the issue. When you lose like that to that team that many times in a row, it's demoralizing. There are guys that were at Ohio State that never got a pair of gold pants. Jack Sawyer, Tuimaloloau, Denzel Burke never got a pair of gold pants. And when you never get a pair of gold pants, what does it do to you? It's a bad mark on your resume. Now, Jeremiah Smith has a bad mark on his resume, but there are a lot of other things that he has done that are team accomplishments or individual accolades that he has received that are showing that, yeah, you lost, but we still did some pretty good things. But this is Ohio State. This isn't Florida and Georgia. This ain't Alabama and Auburn. This ain't North Carolina and Duke on the basketball court. No, this ain't Florida and Florida State. This ain't Florida and Miami. This ain't Miami and Florida State. This ain't USC and Notre Dame. This ain't Texas, Oklahoma. This ain't none of that. This is way bigger. Stakes are higher. Bragging rights? Oh my gosh. You want them bad boys. This is different. And when you lose that game to the team up north, not one, not two, not three, but 4 times as Ryan Day has been the head coach, it makes you sick to think about that game. But for Jeremiah Smith to come out here and state for the next 2 years, I'm going to read the quote to you. I'm not even going to try to get around it anymore. I read part of it earlier. Here's the entire quote. Part of the quote, part of the article that was written by Manny Navarro, who interviewed Jeremiah Smith and talked about the team up north. Quote, I'm not a sore loser, but I hate losing. And losing to that team up north was pretty crazy. In the end, I think it really helped us play the way we did in the playoffs. But I didn't want to go to Ohio State and lose to that team up north. I just hate them. Just something about them. For the next 2 years, I promise you, I will not lose to them. I can't lose to them in the next 2 years, end quote. Now, if your leader is saying that, and a guy that is well regarded as the best player in college football, he is the highest ranked player in the EA Sports College Football 26 at a 99 overall, number 2. Second best player in that game, Caleb Downs, who's also number 2 on the jersey. So that's really good things for Ohio State. But you got to turn the tide. When your leader is doing that, it's going to be very, very easy for everybody else to fall in line and to follow the leader. And this is not a leader that's going to lead you to a way that's not towards the promised land. He is trying to go to the promised land. Went there last year during his freshman campaign. He's trying to go once again and then again in his third year at Ohio State before going off into the National Football League. I am glad, personally glad, that Jeremiah Smith is not shying away from the reality that not only does he not want to lose to them, he's promising it. But reality of the situation is, if you're going to promise that Ohio State's not going to lose to Michigan next year or the year after, well, this upcoming season or the following season, you've got to figure out how to get the other 10 guys on the field with you to do their job consistently. You also got to figure out how to get the guys that are on defense and you're not even on the field to do their job consistently and to rise to the occasion, to not fold under pressure or not be someone that's going to be shy or not be the warrior you need to be when you're in the big house. You got to make sure you figure out how to do that. You know what should do that by itself, even if Jeremiah Smith didn't say a word about the team of North? It's last year's outcome. Losing to that team that Ohio State had no business toying with like they did. Going back and forth and allowing them to stay in the game as long as they did. Ohio State should have blown them. But what happened? Players didn't do their jobs. Coaches didn't do their jobs. Allowed Michigan to hang around. Jack Sawyer had an INT. Caleb Downs had an INT in the red zone. That red zone defense on that day was one thing that, looking back, it's amazing that Ohio State's defense last year had so many big-time goal line stands. They had one in the national semifinal against Texas where it was first down, second down, third down, fourth down, scoop and score, Jack Sawyer. It's fun to think about those things. It's fun to talk about them. It's not fun to talk about Ohio State losing to the team up north. Your leader should do stuff like this. Your leader should be the one to speak up and say, oh, yeah, I hate them. I can't stand them. I don't want anything to do with them. And with last year's outcome, I'm going to promise you that we're not losing to them the next 2 years. But for Jeremiah Smith, saying it's one thing. You got to back it up. And if there's anybody at Ohio State that I believe can back up what they preach, it's Jeremiah Smith. Some call him JJ. His jersey number is number 4. He's also a guy that is a new school player that has an old school energy about him. And that energy is something that other Buckeye players need to adopt. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, Code Locked On College for half off your first year. Thank you all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Jeremiah Smith is a very special player, but with it being a special player, there's a special energy about him. And it's not just because he's a receiver. He's not a diva like some of the other guys that I grew up with, a Keyshawn Johnson, a Randy Moss, a Terrell Owens. Those guys were the epitome of the diva wide receiver. That's not Jeremiah Smith at all. Nowhere close to that. Jeremiah Smith is a South Florida kid. And there's something special about South Florida football players, the elite high school players on the gridiron, that is welcomed at any campus around the country. Because they don't back down and they don't fear anybody. Doesn't matter if it's John Garcia, who was a long-time recruiting analyst here with Locked On. He's now with Rivals. Or if it's Brian Smith, who's friends with John Garcia Jr., who has been covering recruiting longer than Garcia has. And they both will say the same thing about players from South Florida. They're different. Now, I won't say it's the Bomani Jones can't go back all-star. I won't say that. But I will say there is something special about those guys, and it's the best thing I want from a competitor. Brandon Ennis is a similar way. Carnell Tate, similar way. All three receivers, but what do you find? Well, Carnell Tate's not from South Florida. He is from Chicago. He does have that mentality that I ain't going to back down from you. You don't intimidate me. I don't care what your ranking is. I don't care what somebody says about you and its scouting report. I am going to take you down. And for Jeremiah Smith's energy to come into Ohio State at such a young age, with all the attention, with all the money being thrown his way, with all the NIL deals, and I can only imagine how much money he is getting from the revenue sharing that Ohio State is able to embark upon starting on July 1st of this year. That man's got the money. He has every single human opportunity to not be the guy, to allow his God-given talents to overtake his mindset and allow him to get a puffed up head and to get to not be a humble athlete. But he is not doing that. And that is what this rivalry was built upon. Guys that didn't back down. Guys that didn't fear anybody. Guys that rose to the occasion. Hey, the team up north that's coming up next, you know what we got to do? If we already on 100, we got to go up even higher and even higher, because this game is for everything. Now, maybe to say, Jay, last year's game wasn't for everything, was it? I mean, Ohio State lost the game. They still made the playoff. They hosted a home playoff game. And they won 3 more games after that blowout of Tennessee to win the national championship. So maybe to say, Jay, in reality of what's going on now in college football, that game is not everything. It's not what it used to mean. You know what didn't happen after that loss? Ohio State was knocked out of contention to play in the Big Ten championship game when they beat Penn State in the season. But they didn't take care of business. They had 2 conference losses, the other one being to Oregon, and they weren't the team playing Oregon in Lucas Oil Stadium to be champs of the Big Ten. So it's not truly for everything like it used to be, but it can still make sure that you don't accomplish goals that you want to accomplish in this season. So moving forward, there might be a mindset shift that needs to happen for Ohio State in this game. You think a mindset shift? It needs to be one, but it's maybe not what you think. The mindset shift is do whatever it takes. We ain't talking about cheating. We ain't talking about breaking no rules. No. Absolutely not. Within the confines of the rule book, do what you got to do to win this game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I tap into the old school energy because a lot of new school players, I was talking to someone recently about something I saw after having a conversation about this very movie. It's Rush Hour. And I'm not here to knock people, and, well, hear me out. I won't go that far yet. I saw basically it was a screenshot come across Facebook. And it was something that they saw on TV when Rush Hour was about to go on TV, and it was a disclaimer at the beginning of the movie. I don't know what channel it was on. I just know the disclaimer kind of caught me off guard because it said there may be things in this movie, and it described some of the things that might be there that said, viewer discretion is advised. Not truly, I don't know word for word, but it was basically saying, hey, here's your warning. Viewer discretion is advised. And it's different than what it was when the movie came out, because when the movie came out, Rush Hour, that is, I don't think people truly saw some of the stuff in there offensive. Now, granted, different time. There are things in that movie that if you did the movie now, you wouldn't be able to do them today. But a well-respected movie, two stars, superstars in acting together, and what do you find? They had jokes, they had humor, they had the ability to work very well together, and they made 3 movies that are really, really funny. But there are some things there that aren't allowed that were allowed previously. With this rivalry, there are some things going on now with it that shouldn't be allowed. Losing being one of them, poor game plans being another one, poor in-game adjustments being another one, players not laying it all out being another one, offensive struggles when your team should be an offensive juggernaut, that's another one. Really doing the proper scouting report. There's things with this game that should not happen. There's a warning about if you do this, this might happen, similar to the movie. Hey, viewer discretion is advised. We're going to warn you about some things in this movie that we feel you need to be warned about. Great. But move at your own pace, move at your own risk. If you go forward and do the thing that you've been warned about, it could lead to something you might not like. Ohio State, in this game, what have they done? They have moved forward. There's been a big warning sign. Hey, if you do this, you might lose the game. Well, if you do this again, you might lose again and again and again. But you go back to the old school energy that was 20, 30, 40 years ago. That's true. I'm not trying to knock people. People were tougher. They could deal with a whole lot more. Physically, the athletes didn't have the same treatment and medicine and therapy tables and things like that. But what do you find? They can endure a lot and overcome a lot. And for Ohio State right now, the old school energy in this rivalry, let's not even go back 20 years to Tressel, even before that to John Cooper, and Earl Bruce, or Woody Hayes. Let's not go back that far. Let's just go back to Urban Meyer. Because one thing about Urban Meyer in this game, he is psychotic. There are things that make him a great coach that might cause people to describe him as psychotic. You know what? If you're a college football coach at this level, you're probably a little psychotic. And I'm not trying to say that in a horrible, terrible way, but you might have a couple screws loose, because you need to have a couple screws loose to even want to coach at this level. But then once you get there, you may have 3 or 4 or 5 more screws loose, because you realize, man, this place crazy. This place absolutely insane. They got a timer for the next year's game against the team? Yeah, why? Because it means that much. Oh, wait. They put beat so-and-so on the TV in the Woody Hayes because what? Oh, to prepare for the next game? Oh, man, these people crazy. Oh, you are blue inside the Woody? What's going to happen? Go take it off. Go get a different shirt. Why? Because they crazy, but crazy in a good way. That's old school stuff, man, holding people accountable. It's the new school thing, too. Not saying it's not new school, but the old school energy was tough, man. No holds barred. And Urban Meyer, the way that he viewed this game, it wasn't a 1 week, a 2 month, a 3 month, a half a year type of thing. It was a 365-day-a-year job to know their recruiting, to know who they're rising on their own recruiting board, to know who they're falling on, to know what their game plans are, who's a riser for the Wolverines. So when that game was played, the 12th game of the regular season, what did you find? You found that Urban Meyer had the upper hand because they worked tirelessly for that moment. It's hard for me to believe that the way things have gone for Ohio State over the past 4 years, that during those 4 years that Ohio State has done everything they can before the game is kicked off to make sure they're properly prepared for the game. It's hard for me to believe that's actually happening. It can be, but it's hard for me to believe it. I do believe this, though. If more players had that South Florida mentality, when just like, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it. Yeah, you may think you're better than me. You may have more stars than me right now. I may be the 20th best player in the class. You may be the 15th. That's cool. That's great. What's going to happen? I'm going to take it from you. I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to do everything that's needed to make you look foolish so I win the rep. To get South Florida mentality, the vibe, the old school energy versus a new school player. Go back to the old school, man. I love old school stuff. I like some old school music. I love the old school way under Urban Meyer that Ohio State just beat Michigan every single year. Overtime game or not, Ohio State's walking away with that dub. They're not eating W's like Jameis Winston, but they are still winning the game. Jeremiah Smith promised over the next 2 years he's not losing to Michigan. He also helped us get into a vibe that Ohio State needs in that game. But while all that's great, how could Jeremiah Smith surpass or do better than what he did during his freshman campaign? Y'all, I'll answer that question next. Thank you all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. Jeremiah Smith is a very special player. When I think about Ohio State's great players over the past 20 years, even though he's only had 1 year playing college football, I think it's pretty easy to say that after 2, which I believe is a minimum at least to be on the team for 2 years, Jeremiah Smith's going to be on that list and he's going to be one of the better players that is there. Last year's number for Jeremiah Smith were otherworldly. It's insane to even think about his 76 reception season, 1,315 receiving yards, 15 receiving touchdowns. He also added in 6 carries and scored 1 rushing touchdown as well. I got his game log right in front of me. It was only one game where he only had 1 catch. That was the Cotton Bowl against Texas. Every other game, he had 3 or more receptions, 3 against Marshall. He had 3 against Nebraska. He had 3 against Indiana, and that was it. 4, 5, 6, 7. This young man is a dog. He even had 9 catches against Oregon, which was a single game high for receptions, had 100 receiving yards and 1 receiving touchdown. Outside of that, it was 6, 7. One of those 2 was probably the ideal number of receptions he's going to have. Those numbers are great. Individually, statistically, he did some big things. Even in some losses, 5 catches against Michigan, 9 against Oregon, he did a lot of great things. So how can number 4 do better during a sophomore campaign? 1, do everything that he did last year. But here's the difference. You don't have Emeka Buka out there running with you. You got Carnell Tate and Brendan Ennis. And this trio might be one of the better trios that Ohio State's had in recent years. You got the year Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. I forget who else. Was that the Njigba year? Forgive me for forgetting that year and when certain guys came out. But this trio of Ennis, Tate, and Smith, y'all better watch out. You better not cry. Some of y'all might cry because then you got to add in Max Clare at tight end, and that's a 4-headed monster nobody wants to deal with. Well, that's an elite 4-headed monster. Jeremiah Smith is clearly the best player. So you got to, 1, be as consistent as you were a year ago. Be a better blocker as a receiver than you were a year ago. But number 3, and more importantly, help your players win and beat Michigan. Now, it's very hard as a receiver to help your team win when things aren't going. I mean, just in general, because you're not playing offensive line. You're not playing defensive line. You're not playing linebacker. You are literally playing receiver. You're split out wide, probably by yourself. They might throw another guy over there with you that's in the slot, but you're primarily by yourself on an island. So it's very hard to help people when you're on an island. So how in the world can he do it? Some practice, baby. Those practice reps and things that he is doing in practice are necessary for Ohio State to be better than it was a year ago. 2 regular season losses, 1 to Oregon, the other to, Michigan. It's tough to think about it. It hurts me and pains me to think about what happened that day, but you got to figure out a way to help your teammates. That is easier said than done. But if there's somebody on offense that I 100% believe can help Ohio State be better than it was a year ago, it's Jeremiah Smith. Now, you can't do it alone. Think about some other guys that are on offense. Carson Hinchman, Austin Servo. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if Austin Servo got first team Big Ten. this year. It wouldn't shock me if Carson Hinzman at center was an all Big Ten player. It wouldn't shock me if Julian Sand or somebody else ended up being someone that got some Big Ten awards, not just because of their individual talent, but because Jeremiah Smith helped them get better. And I think going forward, you got to expect Jeremiah Smith to be that kind of leader. Now, he is a little quiet, like you mentioned earlier. I mean, like you mentioned numerous times. He doesn't have the boldest personality. He's not the loudest player. I think Brandon Ennis, his personality and things is one that it's easier to gravitate towards because he is more energetic, a little bit more charismatic. It's literally right now thinking of that video after one of the playoff games where I think it was a Rose Bowl, and Brandon Ennis said, "Hey man, stop messing with my dog," and he was just hyping up Ryan Day. Energy's just different. I love it. I love everything about it. But Jeremiah Smith's freshman year, in the interview with The Athletic, he said what he should have said, but also it shows that he's not taking anything for granted. Quote, "This is all a blessing. The season I had last year was a blessing. I just won a national championship, contributed to a top team. I mean, all of this has been surreal. I'm just soaking it all in, but I'm not finished." And it's that last sentence that gets me as I read it. I'm just soaking it all in, but I'm not finished. He sounds like somebody that's been doing this for 10 years. He literally sounds like LeBron. Like, it's something LeBron would do. "I'm soaking this all in, man. We won the Natty last year, man. NBA Finals last year. Had that parade, and so many people around there hooping and hollering and yelling, 'LeBron, LeBron, LeBron,' because LeBron James led his team to a title. He trying to soak it all in, but then all of a sudden, y'all, hey, I'm not finished." And for Jeremiah Smith to say that, it circles back to what he said, what we talked about earlier in the show about him not losing to Michigan. I think him saying "I'm not finished" is 100% tied into him not losing to Michigan, because that needs to happen. You can't keep losing to this team. You can't. You don't see me on. I do get passionate. I do get it sometimes a little emotional. You don't see me come on here after an Oregon loss with the same emotion as you do after a Michigan loss. No, you don't. I have my own beef with Michigan State. If Ohio State, for some odd reason down the road, ended up losing to Michigan State, I wouldn't be as emotional or passionate as I am with the game against Michigan. Not trying to pull a line from the SEC, but that game just means more. And with that game just meaning more, you're going to get Jeremiah Smith to do what he did during his interview with The Athletic, discussing that he can't stand the team. He hates that team. He's not going to lose to them anymore over the next 2 years. He's basically declaring a Buckeye victory. You could do it now, but you got to also play well enough to win the game. The passion, the emotions that we have, they're even greater passions and emotions for the players and the coaches that are actually involved in the game. Jeremiah Smith's freshman year was great. It's a lot of fun to watch. But that was last year. It's not next year. It's upcoming season or the year after that. He has to keep working, has to keep grinding. He has to get better and better and better, because the opposing defensive coordinators, they're going to throw different things at Jeremiah Smith. They're going to try to pull different tricks out of their bag to trip up number 4. You know what's going to happen? Jeremiah Smith is going to rise to the occasion. And I'm making that proclamation now because I've seen enough. I have seen enough of Jeremiah Smith to know what the rivalry means to him, what the rivalry should mean to Ryan Day, what it should mean to the other players, and maybe getting some guys to play the game that don't have all the scars that the other guys have, that'll be a little bit fresher, might be what the Buckeyes need right now to snap their 4-game losing streak to the team up north behind their star wide receiver. Let's not forget Caleb Downs. You got a dude on offense. You got a dude on defense. One might be a top 10 pick in the upcoming draft. Jeremiah Smith will probably be the number 1 pick in the following draft. Why? Because they're that good. So when you got a guy on offense and a guy on defense, follow them. They both had surreal freshman seasons. Caleb Downs followed up in a surreal sophomore campaign. I can't wait to see what number 4 and number 2 do in the upcoming year wearing the scarlet and gray. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the portal, because my guy Brian Smith, he's got the latest rumors, portal entries, and all the info on the signings. Find Locked On Buckeyes in the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes right here on a hump day. We'll see you next time.